nobody in the public square is having a reasonable, balanced discussion, debate anymore. Everything is just, like there's no, and these guys, I saw a little video clip today. It was on Twitter, Instagram, I can't remember. It was Chris Christie.
Yep. Love Chris Christie.
What was he eating?
And of course, the hardcore right? They don't like Chris Christie because he's not like right-wing conservative enough.
Yes.
And so, but Chris Christie was saying something, and he was getting booed at some event, and his response was actually, we're not gonna replay it right now, but anyway, if you took the words that he said, and you didn't know who said them, they were actually quite reasonable and quite
I see.
respect. Did you see that? He basically said, this kind of like bull is beneath what we ought to be as a country trying to elect a president.
Yeah.
And he went on to say, but and he said, and if my views are all such garbage and yours are all so great, then why don't you just be quiet and let me say my ridiculous thoughts, and then you can just dismiss them out of hand and we'll be done. But instead you become combative, and he actually, I thought it, and I'm not like a huge Chris Christie fan or anything, but I thought that actually what he just said made a lot of sense. But if you read in the comments, right, of what, all of it was how many donuts did he eat before he, right? Yeah. But it was people who were just of a certain frame of mind, who were sort of hard right conservatives, were just ridiculing him for even speaking.
But see, what you're pointing out is contrasting what Tony is saying.
Mm-hmm.
When you pose the question of all of this to Tony sat back and he said, let me think about this.
She's very systematic, this one.
Nothing gets past me. He said, let me think about this from a thinking man's perspective, from a logical perspective. Let me approach this. I'm having a conversation with my wife, and I'm wondering, is there a philosopher that I can draw from? Is there other inspiration that will help me form my opinion? And you're contrasting that with this reactionary soundbite society that we have. If you listen to my show, you'll hear me talk about these young people with their sound bites because they listen to TikTok that's only 15 seconds long, and the only thing they're capable of is a 15-second soundbite without the thought that goes behind it, right? Which is what Tony was trying to do.
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Right? This has already gone too long, too far, too long.
To that generation.
Right?
You have no excuse.
I don't.
This reactionary, and Christie is basically saying, just let me speak. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a dialogue.
Yes.
Let's have a discussion.
Yeah.
Right?
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's so, I think there's many differences with the past, right? So in the past, there was some time to think about things.
Yeah.
So technology came at a very gradual step, and the transformation wasn't as radical as it is today.
Right.
Yes.
We had like 20, 30 years between radio and TV.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, it took time for things to...
Today it is so quick, right? And, it's so quick that I don't think the thinkers have really an opportunity to provide some perspective as to, okay, what we're about to do. So 2020 was...
Or even a means to wield that influence.
Yes.
Right? Like even if they were there, how do they get ahead of this snowball of interaction that's happening in the world?
Because it all depends on the hashtags that the algorithms count in social media.
Yeah.
If the hashtags say whatever the right wants to hear, whatever the left wants to hear, right? Then it's very difficult to go past those hashtags, because now we really read everything in our phones, right? Yeah. So I thought we had a vacuum of a thinker It was one of those critical moments in history. During the French Revolution, we had them. During the American Revolution, we had them. In World War I, we had them. In World War II, we had them. But it was interesting, to me at least, to see that we didn't have a real thinker sort of helping us navigate through this very difficult era.
But wait, Tony, here's the question. Even if we had a thinker,
Right.
would they have been able to think quickly enough?
No.
Comment quickly enough?
Even if they could think
Nope.
quickly enough, how
Right?
do you get their thoughts
How do you get their thoughts
out
out?
of that?
No.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, you
No.
can't.
Not even, but no to both.
That was my point about
Quick enough.
the founders of the country.
Yeah.
They didn't have to, this is a whole bunch of people living here doing right?
Yes.
And these guys go over and they have time to get the thoughts and to inject
Read all of the books.
into
It's a different world.
and inject it into like, here's what we're gonna do, everybody, right?